Picture her, a woman in white, head veiled, her gaze lowered in perpetual piety, a living statue in a silent temple, guarding a sacred flame. This is the image of the Vestal Virgin that has echoed through history, a chaste, silent servant of the goddess Vesta. But this image, it's a masterclass in historical misdirection. It's a beautiful, comfortable lie. Forget the passive priestess. Imagine instead one of the most legally liberated and politically formidable figures in all of Rome. A woman who could own vast estates in her own name, a right denied to almost every other Roman matron, trapped under the legal thumb of her husband or father. A woman whose testimony in court required no oath, for her very word was considered incorruptible truth. A woman who, by simply encountering a condemned man on his way to execution, could instantly pardon him with a single sacred gesture. These weren't just temple guardians, they were power brokers at the very heart of the empire. Julius Caesar entrusted his will to them. The Emperor Augustus treated them as family, his personal confidants. Their person was sacrosanct. To strike them was a capital crime. They were untouchable, revered, and utterly trapped, because for all this power, for all this reverence, they lived within a gilded cage, bound by a single terrifying law, a vow that, if broken, promised a death of unimaginable horror. Their story isn't one of quiet devotion. It's a story, a brutal paradox of immense power held on the very edge of a knife. Welcome back to Epoch Immersion. Today we part the sacred veil and step into the silent marble halls of power to answer the question, what was it really like to be a Vestal Virgin in the turbulent age of the first Caesars? So how does one begin this life of impossible prestige? You don't choose it, it chooses you. Before your 10th birthday, you are plucked from the ranks of Rome's most noble patrician daughters. The criteria are ruthlessly specific. You must be freeborn, of sound body and mind, and crucially, both of your parents must still be living, a symbol of an unbroken, blessed household. The Pontifex Maximus himself presides over the selection. Imagine him, a figure of absolute authority, taking your small hand and uttering the ancient binding formula, Te amata capio, I take you, beloved one, to be a Vestal priestess. In that one moment, your world is irrevocably fractured. You are no longer your father's daughter. The ironclad Roman law of patria potestas, of father's total authority over his children, is instantly shattered for you. You are severed from your family, your past, your very name. You now belong only to Vesta and to the eternal soul of Rome itself. For a girl in a world where women were legal property, this was the most radical emancipation imaginable. A terrifying, exhilarating leap from being a possession to being a pillar of the state. If you find these hidden power structures of the ancient world as fascinating as we do, be sure to subscribe to Epoch Immersion for more deep dives into history's most compelling roles. You are taken to your new home, the Atrium Vesti, a palace of staggering luxury right at the political and spiritual heart of the city. And here, as you walk through corridors of polished marble and serene gardens, the first and most intoxicating part of your new reality reveals itself. You have privileges other women can only ever dream of. The allure of this new life is intoxicating, built on a foundation of unparalleled privilege. While the average Roman woman is a legal shadow, you are a legal entity. You can inherit, purchase, and sell property on a whim. You write your own will, and it is unassailable. This isn't just financial independence, it's a form of autonomy that makes you the envy of the most powerful women in the empire. You travel the city not on foot, but in a carpentum, a covered carriage, a right reserved for only the most elite. When you move through the crowded streets, a lictor, a state bodyguard, walks before you, clearing the way. Consuls, senators, even the emperor himself will step aside and lower their fasces, the symbols of their power in your presence. You have the best seats at the Colosseum, reserved front and center, a public display of your sacred status. You dine on delicacies sourced from across the empire, prepared in kitchens that rival the emperor's. In your private baths within the atrium, you use your bronze strigil to scrape away the perfumed oils, a ritual of cleansing in a world of unimaginable luxury. This simple tool is a daily reminder of your pampered, protected status. Your life is one of sacred duty, yes, but it is also one of immense comfort. You are a scholar, a diplomat, a stateswoman, and a kingmaker, all veiled in the sanctity of the goddess. The most powerful men in Rome seek your counsel, not just for divine favor, but for your sharp, educated political minds. What modern profession do you think holds a similar hidden influence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But this gilded cage has bars forged from the oldest and most primal fears of Rome. For 30 years you must uphold your vow. 30 years of perfect, unblemished purity. The privileges are immense, but the price is absolute, and the penalty for failing to pay it is the stuff of nightmares. But the gold of your cage is cold to the touch, and the work is relentless. Your primary duty, the task upon which the fate of the Roman Empire is said to rest, is deceptively simple. You must never, ever let the sacred flame of Vesta go out. This is no mere symbol. The Romans believed this fire was the very hearth of their city, the literal life force of Rome, its Pignus Imperii. For it to die was an omen of unparalleled disaster. It meant the goddess Vesta had withdrawn her favor. It meant the legions would falter, the harvest would fail, and the city itself would fall. So you watch it, in shifts through the endless nights, for 30 years. Every gust of wind from an open door, every stray drop of moisture in the air becomes a source of heart-stopping terror. Sleep is a luxury you can barely afford, and true rest is a distant memory. The city sleeps, but you do not. You watch, you feed the flame, you pray, and if you fail, if you doze off and the flame sputters and dies on your watch, the punishment is swift, brutal, and deeply personal. You, a sacred and untouchable woman, are taken to a darkened chamber, shielded from public view only by a thin curtain, and the Pontifex Maximus, your guardian, becomes your tormentor. He beats you with leather straps. It is a ritualistic scourging designed not just to cause pain, but to humiliate, to remind you that for all your power, your body is not your own. It is an instrument of the state, and your failure has consequences. Afterwards, alone in the quiet of the baths, you would take up your bronze strigil. But now, scraping your skin clean is a desperate attempt to erase the memory of the blows, the shame in your heart. The cold, hard metal is a poor comfort. And yet, this agonizing punishment is considered a mercy, because there is one vow far more important than tending the flame, a vow of the flesh, a vow of absolute chastity. And for breaking that one, there is no forgiveness, only a tomb. The crime is called crimen incesti, the crime of incest. To break your vow of chastity is not a personal failing, it is a spiritual act of treason. You are a symbolic daughter of Rome, a bride of the state. To lie with a man is to pollute the very soul of the republic, an act so profane it is believed to invite the wrath of the gods down upon the 7 hills. For your lover, the sentence is public and brutally simple. He is taken to the Forum Boarium or the Comitium, stripped and flogged to death by the Pontifex Maximus, a raw, bloody spectacle of state power, a warning to all other men. But for you, the law presents a chilling paradox. You are sacrosanct. Your blood cannot be spilled by the hand of man. So the priests, in their terrible wisdom, devised a punishment that respects the letter of the law while violating its every spirit. You are to be buried alive. The entire city is thrown into public mourning. You are placed in a covered litter, sealed and silent, so that no sound from your polluted lips can profane the air. You are carried through the weeping crowds like a corpse already in its coffin. It is a living funeral procession, and all of Rome is forced to watch your damnation. You arrive at a place just inside the city walls, the Campus Celeratus, the field of evil. Here a small subterranean chamber has been prepared. Inside, a couch, a lamp, and a final cruel mockery of their duty to preserve you. A single loaf of bread, a flask of water, a little milk. They are not killing you, you see. They are merely leaving you where the gods may choose to no longer sustain you. The Pontifex Maximus offers one last prayer, his face a mask of stone. Then you are forced down the ladder into the earth. There is no bathhouse here, no perfumed oils, no bronze strigil to scrape away the filth and the fear. There is only the suffocating dark and the chilling, rhythmic sounds of the masons sealing the entrance, stone by agonizing stone. Your gilded cage has become a solid tomb. The live burial is the ultimate horror, the final terrifying expression of Roman piety, but it was a rare event, a shock to the system. For most Vestals, life was not a single dramatic moment of terror, but a long, slow grind of meticulous, repetitive, and absolutely vital ritual. This was the daily reality of the gilded cage. Your service is a 30-year marathon. rigidly structured into 3 decades. For the first 10 years, you are a novice, you learn. Under the watchful eye of the older priestesses, you memorize the endless liturgical calendar, the precise hand gestures for every sacrifice, and the sacred histories known only to your order. For the next 10 years, you are a practitioner. You are the engine of the college. You perform the rituals, you tend the flame, you are the public face of Vesta's grace at Rome's great festivals. This is the decade of your greatest influence and your heaviest burden of responsibility. In your final decade, you become a teacher, a magistra. You pass your knowledge to the new novices, ensuring the sacred chain of tradition remains unbroken. You are now a figure of immense authority and respect, a living library of holy rites. And the daily tasks? You fetched water, not from an aqueduct, but from a sacred spring, carrying it in special clay vessels called feudals designed to spill if ever set down, a constant physical lesson in vigilance. You prepared the holy mola salsa, a sacred flour and salt mixture sprinkled on the head of nearly every sacrificial animal in Rome. Without your hands, the state's contract with the gods was considered invalid. And you guarded secrets. Deep within your temple, behind a curtained door no man could ever pass, you guarded the holiest relics of the state, objects like the Palladium, said to have been rescued from Troy, and which guaranteed Rome's invincibility. At the end of another long day of these relentless duties, you would retreat to the baths. If you're appreciating this look into the daily reality of the past, please take a moment to like the video. It truly helps the channel. Here, holding your cool bronze strigil might be the only time you felt entirely alone with your own thoughts. A brief, personal ritual in a life that was entirely public property. To survive for 30 years in this high-stakes world of ritual and political intrigue required more than just piety. It demanded immense discipline, shrewd intelligence, and an understanding of the hidden levers of power. These were the tricks of the trade, the secrets to mastering life within the cage. It began with your very appearance. Your hairstyle, the sine crines, was an elaborate weaving of 6 braids, a style shared only with traditional Roman brides on their wedding day. But while a bride wore it for a day, you wore it for 30 years. It was a public crown, signifying your sacred status, instantly marking you as separate, holy, and untouchable. It was a form of armor woven from your own hair. But the greatest secret, the one that truly defines the paradox of your life, comes at the end of your service. When you are around 40 years old, your vow is fulfilled. The heavy doors of the atrium are opened for you. You are free to leave. You can re-enter society, and you are legally permitted to marry. And yet, historical records show that almost none of them did. Think about it. Would you trade a life of immense wealth, unparalleled status, and real political influence to become an ordinary wife, legally subservient to a husband? To leave a palace where you are revered for a world that now sees you as a strange, middle-aged curiosity, perhaps even an unlucky one to marry? Most chose to remain. They stayed within the atrium as revered teachers and stateswomen, retaining their power, their community, and their purpose. The door was open, but the gilded cage had become a comfortable, powerful home. This was their most profound trick, turning a lifelong sentence into a chosen destiny. And from that home, they used their unimpeachable piety as a political shield. When the dictator Sulla ordered the execution of a defiant young Julius Caesar, it was the Vestals who intervened, using their immense prestige to shelter him. They were the keepers of wills, the guardians of treaties, the secret brokers of trust. An elder Vestal, her 30 years long past, might explain this to a novice. The rigid discipline of your daily life, the endless rituals, these are not just duties. They are the forging of a will so strong and a reputation so pure that even the most powerful men in the world will bend to it. So what was it really like to be a Vestal Virgin? It was a life of the most profound contradiction imaginable. It was to be the most liberated and the most imprisoned woman in Rome. To be untouchable, yet subject to the most brutal punishments. To wield immense political power from a position of absolute personal submission, to be revered as a goddess, but to live under constant, terrifying human scrutiny. The verdict on their life is as complex as they were. Was it a worthy sacrifice to the Romans? Absolutely. These 6 women were the spiritual bedrock of an empire. the living guarantors of its divine favor. They traded a personal life for an eternal, symbolic one, and in their own minds, it was likely a noble, if terrifying, bargain. The bronze strigil, our anchor object, tells the final story. In the hands of a young novice, it was a tool of ritual purity. After a scourging, it was a cold comfort for her shame. In the hands of a powerful practitioner, a symbol of luxury. And for the elder who chose to stay, it was a mark of her own survival and identity, a simple object for a life that was anything but. But does this gilded cage truly belong to the past, or have we just rebuilt it with new materials? Think of the world we live in now, and consider the female politician, the global CEO, the superstar actress, women in positions of immense public power, who are expected to be flawless symbols. We grant them status and influence, but in return, we scrutinize their private lives with a ferocity the Romans would have recognized. We demand they be role models, paragons of virtue, and we are swift to condemn them for any perceived failing, any crack in the facade. A personal mistake doesn't just affect them, it's treated as a betrayal of the institution or the ideal they represent. The sacred flame they must tend is the unforgiving glare of the 24-hour news cycle and the court of public opinion. Their vow of purity is a demand for an impossible, inhuman perfection. The Vestal Virgin's paradox is still with us. We still build pedestals for powerful women, not realizing that a pedestal is just a smaller, more visible type of cage. Thank you for joining us on Epoch Immersion. If this journey gave you something to think about, please subscribe and join our community of historical explorers. Let us know in the comments which part of history you'd like to immerse in next.